Now it is my privilege to introduce to you the International Association of Firefighters General President, Harold A. Schaitberger.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, sisters and brothers, and good evening to all of you. It's really great to see so many of you here at one of the very most important conferences of so many forums that this international provides. And I'm proud to report that this year we have another record-breaking attendance. Some 1,200 of you attending those 95 workshops have come here to Phoenix to learn. And we're going to help make you better leaders. Because this truly is, as Pat said, this is the opportunity to learn and to grow. And I know that all of you are going to make the most of it while you're here. But before I share some remarks and thoughts with you, I want to acknowledge all the hard work of my friend and my partner and your General Secretary Treasurer, who served his country with honor, a member of the United States Navy in Vietnam, became a member of the Indianapolis Fire Department on his return, was an officer in his local there, and ran a state council operation for 25 years, moving on to run the great 8th district of this international with some 730 locals, and now serving as our principal officer in charge of your finances, budget, my partner, Tom Miller. Please give him a warm welcome. Tom. And I know Tom's in the back. It's not because that's where he has to be, but he's fighting a little something. He's a little under the weather. So I also want to take a moment, though, to also recognize an incredible part of this IAFF team. 16 vice presidents, one who run and responsible for each one of our great districts. That's who really has helped to build this IAFF into the union that it's become, including bringing you this terrific educational forum. So I, too, want to make sure that you welcome each of your own, but as a group, the incredible executive board of this IAFF. Thanks for everything you do. And I want to take just a moment to acknowledge the horrific tragedy that occurred just 9 days ago north of Tucson. The violence that day was shocking, and the loss of life made everyone in this country stop and think twice about some very important issues. And as devastating as that tragedy was, I know that the work of our members saved lives that day. I have nothing but pride for all of the work that all of you do. And I have nothing but pride for the quiet, determined, professional ways that our members in every major tragedy and disaster, always on the front line, do their work. But 2 Saturday mornings ago, our members who went about their jobs that day showed the nation once again exactly who all of you are, and the some 300,000 of you all across 2 great nations. They triaged, they treated, and they transported every one of those victims out of that horrific scene and to medical trauma care, all within 38 minutes. And their extraordinary efforts reflect on the great service all of our members deliver every single day. They, as you do, represent the best of what this union is, the best of what our profession is. and the best of what government has to offer. So today I want to applaud the men and women of Northwest Fire District Local 3572, Southwest Ambulance Local I-60, North Tucson Local 3832, and Tucson Local 479, who responded that day and acknowledged the incredible work they did to save so many lives and make us so proud. Congratulations to you. Sisters and brothers, it's been said that one's greatness can be measured by their enemies. Take a good look around this room. There's some 1,200 of you from every corner of our two great countries. For each one of you, I want you to just look to your left and look to your right and look behind you. Now, I know some are not so pretty. But the fact is that these are your sisters and brothers, and they have your back. And this IAFF is your union, and we have your back. In fact, that's what the next 2 days is really all about. Making sure this union gives you the tools that you need to take care of our members, their families, and make sure we always have their backs. But all you have to do these days is to turn on any television, pick up a newspaper, or read the news online, and you quickly understand that this great union and you as firefighters, emergency medical professionals, seem to unfortunately have a hell of a lot of enemies today. Since September 11, 2001, in the eyes of too many, you've gone from heroes to a target. And the attacks on our members and our profession is growing and relentless. I was told recently by a very close friend of mine, a senior congressional member, who is shrewd and a real student of history. And he said he hasn't seen these types of attacks on unions and workers like we're experiencing right now since the 1920s and 30s. In those times, firefighters worked 84 hours a week, if they were lucky, with no overtime. And many of them were working the old continuous duty schedules. They were at-will employees with no rights or safeguards. They had no health or pension benefits, and they made slave wages. Back then, anti-union fervor was so high that Pinkerton guards were corporate guns for hire. Coal miners were being massacred for organizing. Murderous campaigns were initiated against farm workers in California, auto workers in Toledo, truck drivers in Minneapolis, and textile workers all across the country. Yellow dog contracts were forced on workers. Company unions were popping up everywhere. And because of these massive attacks, union membership was decimated. And that, my sisters and brothers, more than 80 years later, is the end game of our enemies once again. They want our union dead, and they want organized labor dead. They may be using different tactics. Instead of Pinkerton smashing your shins in with bats, they have their political puppets and their mouthpieces convincing the media that you, and on the stage of public opinion, are what's wrong with government. What's wrong with America? And too much seeping across our wonderful border to the north, potentially bringing our members in Canada into those same targets. They're now willing to ignore the incredible service that you and our members provide. They ignore how this country of ours got into the economic crisis that we've been dealing with for over 2 years, the worst since the Great Depression. And as former Secretary of Labor Robert Reich wrote recently, public servants have simply become convenient scapegoats. They're calling us faceless bureaucrats and portraying us as hooligans making off with the taxpayers' money, creating debt and deficits, and crippling federal, state, provincial, and local budgets. Those who are demonizing us would rather deflect attention from the obscene corporate executive pay that continues to rise and corporate profits that are soaring. They wanted to keep the stories about Wall Street bonuses out of the headlines and keep our members' Main Street compensation and retirement benefits in those headlines. And while this recession might be loosening its grip in some of the areas of our economy, state and municipal budgets, county and fire district budgets are still under enormous pressure. I don't have to tell you that, and they're still lagging far behind of this recovery that may be getting some traction. We witnessed during this midterm election waves of politicians who rode in on these attacks on public employees. They rode the wave into the state houses, executive mansions, and the halls of Congress, falsely blaming us for the fiscal problems facing government at every level. It's everywhere. Mayors, city managers, governors, premiers, state and congressional representatives, senators, Democrats, and Republicans alike. Too many of them pointing to us as part of the problem, instead of pointing to us as the core of public service. So many of them determined to squeeze every bit of blood they can out of our members and your departments. Too many of them using the pension liabilities they created by stealing money from our plans to balance general budgets, by taking funding holidays and skipping payments as an excuse to kill our defined benefit plans and force our members into defined contribution plans. They're going after your contracts, they're going after our wages, they're going after our benefits, and they're forcing cuts in pay. And I can tell you right now, this IAFF, we are not going to stand for this. And we are going to put a stop to it, and it begins right here and right now and with you. In states like New York, we have newly elected Governor Andrew Cuomo, a Democrat, who has signaled his intent to skewer pension benefits for public employees, even though the pension system there is funded at 105%. In Florida, newly elected Republican Governor Rick Scott plans to cut the state spending by $1.4 billion by forcing state workers to make significant contributions to their own retirement, even though that system is funded at 90%. But it doesn't end with pay, pensions, and benefits. They are coming after the basic rights you have won as union members, or denying our members the basic rights and protections they deserve for doing the dangerous work that you do. Before he left office, Democratic Governor Ed Rendell in Pennsylvania vetoed a cancer presumption bill for firefighters, saying it was too damn expensive. Even though our state association and that leadership was able to line up every vote in the House but one and every vote but four in the Senate, and yet he chose to veto the bill. Just before Republican Governor Bob Riley left office in Alabama, he rammed through legislation attacking payroll deduction rights for public employees. In Ohio, new Republican Governor John Kasich has vowed to repeal the state's 1983 arbitration law. And in New Jersey, what can I say? Governor Chris Christie has made an art form out of bashing public workers, blaming teachers, cops, and our members for that state's woes. And they're not just satisfied with concessions anymore. Now they're even willing to risk our members' lives to take their shots at you, to take us down with cuts in staffing, closing companies and stations, brownouts, and by refusing safer grants that would put our members back to work. Just last week, Governor Brown in California announced his intention to rescind the staffing policy that Local 2881 secured in 2003 that guaranteed and established that 4 persons would ride on every single rig, and now they're proposing to cut it back to 3. The impact on our 6,000 members of CAL FIRE is significant. And to me, the hardest part of all this is that we're faced with these attacks, and we normally expect it from our enemies. But the hardest part is too many times now we can no longer count on our friends to be there with us and when we need them the most. So I'm telling you, I don't care if they're a Democratic governor. I don't care if they're a Republican governor. If they're taking on our members and trying to take us out, then we're going to take them on and we'll be willing to take them down. As I've been reflecting, and many of us have, on the 111th Congress, which adjourned just a few weeks ago, I could spend some time listing and discussing many important accomplishments we achieved. Oh, I could talk about the SAFER program that brought laid-off firefighters back to work in Elyria and Warren and Flint and Worcester and Fall River and Akron and Orlando and Huntington and scores more. Some 1,700 IAFF members back on the job, and the 4,000 more that will be hired this year. Or I could focus on the battle that we fought during the debate on health care reform, when we took on the President of the United States and the Congress, opposing the excise tax that could have cost our members and our health plans dearly. And when we worked to ensure that not a single IAFF member will ever be affected by that provision. No, I could talk about, with great pride, about the final passage of the James Zadroga 9/11 Health and Compensation Act. 9 years overdue, going right down to the wires, the very last order of business, the very last vote in the 111th Congress to ensure that there's funding for existing medical monitoring and treatment for those in our ranks who need them. Now, I could talk a lot and tout a lot about the successes we've achieved together, but I won't. Because I've always chosen to go right after the 800-pound gorilla in the room. And so as the 111th Congress adjourned, when it came to the bill that's been this union's top legislative priority since 1995, a proposal so many have worked so hard on for so long, we walked away empty-handed. There's little doubt that the last session of Congress began with such great expectations for so much, including our collective bargaining rights for every single one of our members. And I believed with every ounce of my body and soul that our time had finally come. But for the first time in a generation, we had the recipe for success, with friends controlling both chambers of Congress and a president who supported the bill and was looking forward to signing it. But in the end, lawmakers confirmed many historical views that too often Congress is a place where good ideas go to die. And this last Congress's Senate simply became the graveyard for over 300 bills that the House had passed, including ours. All of you, our international and state leadership, our incredible staff, so many worked every conceivable angle right up to the bitter end. But we still came up short. We kept the pressure on the Senate leadership. We wanted that proposal brought up again on the floor right up until the clock ran out, and to no avail. Some may second-guess our strategy. Some may question our tactics. There are those who will find fault with Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, while others will point to the 7 members of the GOP who vowed to support us but abandoned us because they were more interested in extending tax breaks for the wealthy. I think the criticism is deserved in both quarters. Democrats blame Republicans for not breaking from the GOP leadership to vote for cloture when they had a chance to do it. But Republicans blame Democrats for bringing the bill up in circumstances that would likely doom its passage. And while the leadership and our friends in the House of Representatives did not let us down, because they passed that proposal twice, in December of 2009, as well as last summer, we also learned who's with us and who's against us in the United States Senate. But let me be clear, a majority leader that may have made parliamentary judgment mistakes are 7 GOP senators that failed to vote for us when they could. They weren't the only ones who let us down, because there were still several Democratic members of that Senate who deserted our cause. Virginia Senator Mark Warner, North Carolina Senator Kay Hagan, and Colorado Senator Michael Bennet not only voted against our bill and abandoned us when we needed them the most, two of them, Mark and Kay, simply changed their original positions of supporting us, and I can't describe that as anything less than a lie. And as we watch the mood of this country and the electorate in general turn, becoming more anti-government, more anti-public employee, those senators obviously thought that voting for us was too risky. The GOP tidal wave of the midterm elections somehow meant that they had to abandon us, abandon reason, and abandon their roots. I have to tell you, I don't think that anyone in this room or beyond is any more disappointed in this outcome than I am. Collective bargaining has been the primary legislative goal for our union for more than 30 years. And it's been a personal crusade of mine since I was a young local president in the early 1970s. But there's really no way to spin this loss, and I'm not about to try. The fact of the matter is that you elected me president of this great union. And so as Harry Truman said, the buck stops right here. So for those who will choose to pine over the specific tactics or strategy we use, the responsibility ultimately is mine. I accept it. In this season of NFL championship playoffs, Monday morning quarterbacking is an art form in and of itself. And criticism is fair game. And that certainly goes for the work of this IAFF. But I know we did everything possible to get that bill passed. And we got so close. But in the end, we failed. And our path going forward doesn't get any easier. This incoming Congress will become even harder to navigate, possibly more dysfunctional. That's hard to imagine. But we simply don't have the luxury of looking back. And I'm not going to waste time licking my wounds or spend our energy questioning what could have been. For those who think they broke our will, our spirit, our commitment for our principled goal, they are dead wrong. We will never surrender our principle. We will never surrender our mission. We will never give in. We will never abandon our commitment to see that ultimately every IAFF member will work under a collective bargaining agreement. And we will not quit. And as our executive board, and as our collective bargaining committee, which met earlier today, considers our next strategies and opportunities for that quest, we also have to pivot. We have to focus, we have to plan, and we have to execute on behalf of our members in what is clearly a time of growing and significant attacks on them, assaults on their profession, their image, their reputation, their wages, their benefits, and their retirement plans. For 93 years, this IAFF has existed to fight for our members, to better their lot, to protect their livelihoods. And we have to view all of these current challenges we're facing as a war, as a battlefront on those that we represent. And as history bears out, wars are won after many individual battles. Some lost, some won. As Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., whose life we celebrate today, taught so many of those about the wars, his life and his tragic death are simply proof that we must not give up the fight, because we are on the right path and we are doing the right work on behalf of those who have entrusted us with that responsibility. And this week, as you better prepare yourselves for the many battles that we will face together, this IAFF is going to be focused like a laser beam to provide you with the tools and the resources, the armor that will allow us to prevail for those who have sent us to the front lines to fight for them. These battles are and will occur at all levels of government. We're already seeing so many proposals coming from so many directions, drafted to assault public sector defined benefit plans, make your employer health care benefits subject to federal taxation, and mandate participation in the Social Security system, already proposed by the President's Deficit Reduction Commission. These are real threats. These are the battle lines that we have to make sure that we staff. And our opponents have made it clear that they are going to continue to target us. They have taken the proud faces of our members and our profession, and they're coining phrases, taking away from them the work they do: corrupt public sector unions, overpaid public sector employees, lazy, out-of-touch government workers. It's vicious. It's a vile strategy. In the media and jurisdiction after jurisdiction, the rage, the anger of our opponents has grown stronger, fueled by radical politicians, political opportunists, and intellectually dishonest talking heads who target our members that we have to protect. We're being attacked because of what this union has built and what it's done for our members over the years. This attack becomes because of so much of the success that you've had. Because of leaders like you, we've built a profession that provides a good standard of living for our members on balance and their families. And all of them, every one of them, all across the United States and Canada, they want and deserve the same thing: to earn a decent pay for the hours they work, to receive health care benefits to protect them for the dangerous job they do, to enjoy the retirement programs that we built that are second to none, not to get rich, but to afford them with a decent standard of living during their retirement years, to protect and take care of them from the disabling injuries they sustain or the insidious diseases they contract over a career. And yes, to take care of the loved ones of our own who make the ultimate sacrifice. That's what our members want. That's what they deserve. That's what this is all about. That's why this union exists. Sisters and brothers, we have built this profession into one of the most respected and envied in the world. But that is why we're a target. And that's why they want to take us down a notch. They're not going after stock clerks at Walmart or workers making French fries at Burger King or McDonald's, because those workers aren't a threat to the powers that be. They're going after you. They're going after us because of what we've built and achieved over the years for our members and our professions. As unorganized workers have given in to the harassment and intimidation of corporations, as private sector unions have been weakened by greedy corporate executives and CEOs who grow stronger and stronger every day, this union has continued to push back and grow in the face of these hostile attacks. You're the leadership. All of you, we've stood together, and we've done it courageously over the course of time, over good times and bad times, as these attacks come and go. And yeah, we've lost a few battles. but we've won so many more. And at times we've bent a little, but we have never broken. Our history shows that you have skillfully played the enemy's game, and you've met them head on the battlefield at every turn. Sure, we've had our setbacks, but we have never been broken. And I can tell you right now, as sure as I'm standing here, that we are not going to give in now. We're not going to give in later. We're not going to ever give in, not on my watch and not on your watch. We're going to stand up for the men and women of the IAFF. You're never going to hear me give in when our opponents say our members are the bad guys. And I'll be damned if you're ever going to hear me apologize one moment for a single wage benefit or retirement plan that we've earned for our members over the years. And to those that say labor unions are too powerful, I say it's the only way for workers to have the power that comes close to equaling the power of the employers and those that control the gold. To those who say unions are out of date or out of touch, I say we need our unions today to be even more stronger than ever before. And I can tell you that this IAFF, is one strong union, and we're going to continue to build it stronger and stronger as we go forward. We're going to continue to do what the IAFF was chartered to do in 1918, and that's to fight for our members, to fight for their profession, to keep on fighting against those who constantly want to turn that clock back. And while others in the labor movement may be waiting for the workers serving lattes in Starbucks and writing programs for Microsoft or folding shirts at Abercrombie to wake up and think about standing up for themselves and organize into a good union, I can promise you that this IAFF is ready to stand up, is ready to fight back, and we are going to continue to become better, stronger, and win more battles because of men and women just like you. And my promise to you, to every one of you, is with the leadership of this incredible executive board and the extraordinary staff at the IAFF offices in Washington, D.C. and Ottawa, with the tremendous work of our district field service reps, our service reps, our PEP instructors, we will continue to put together the skills and services you need to do your jobs on behalf of our members and fight the battles like never before. And finally, sisters and brothers, in all of the work we do, in the face of many disappointments, whether it's the best or worst of times, we have to stay involved in the political arena. We have to keep lobbying those elected to office that control virtually everything that happens to our members and in their lives. We have to do it at the local level, the state, the provincial, and the federal levels. No setback, regardless of its importance, regardless of how disappointing it may be, should deter us away from the place where all of the decisions are made, where all of the action is, and where those who are vilifying us reside. We cannot throw our hands up. We cannot allow our members to throw their hands up. We have to stay engaged in the political process. We have to continue to build our gold and black IAFF brand. There are those who want us to quit. There are those who think that some despair will make us give in and maybe we'll just walk away. We may feel that so many in our countries are moving away from us. We may sense that the voters have moved in a direction that is more anti-government, that the political environment has changed for the worse during this horrific economic time. We know the vitriol has increased, the anger has grown, and the political process has become, in many corners, more unfriendly. But I believe now, under less than ideal circumstances, it's even more important for us to stay in the game. So let me end by recommitting to all of you that every governor or premier, the members of every state legislature and parliament alike, members of the Congress and the U.S. Senate, Democrats, Republicans, NDPers, liberals, conservatives, regardless of their party affiliation, they're going to continue to know who you are. They're going to continue to know who we are. And they're sure as hell going to know once again who the proud men and women of the fire and emergency medical services are in our two nations. They'll know that we're going to continue to support those who will support us, but that we are willing to hold those who work against us accountable, regardless of who they are. And as President John F. Kennedy once said, forgive your enemies, but never forget their names. Well, we're going to keep score, and we're going to know the names of every one of those who stood in our way, who will stand in our way, and who will choose to let us down. They will know that we won't roll over now or ever, and they'll know that we'll never forget their actions. This union has weathered the bad times, and we've prospered in the good times, and we will be here a hell of a lot longer than any politician who comes and goes. So we'll stay focused. We're going to stay vigilant. We're going to stay the course. We're going to keep fighting the cause for our members, their future, and their families. We'll continue to fight those in the political community and talking heads who keep saying that our hard-working, middle-class members are to blame for our economic troubles. So I'll end where I started, celebrating the work of our members 9 days ago, just 90 miles from here. They and those across this entire IAFF represent the very best of what our two countries are and can be. Our members epitomize what true public service is, and we are not going to allow any longer the political opportunists, those loudmouths who want to vilify and malign our members to go unchallenged. They are going to have to deal with us, the IAFF. And so as we get ready to move forward, I got to say to you one simple final thought. We have got to stay together. We have got to stick together. We have to stay unified. We must have the backs of each other, and we must have the backs of our members, and never lose sight of our goals. To provide them with the basic rights they deserve, to protect their pensions, their jobs, their reputation, and their dignity. Tonight we will leave here and enjoy ourselves in good fellowship. And tomorrow we're going to get right back to work and do the work on behalf of the men and women who sent all of us here. God bless every one of you. God bless every one of them on the front line. God bless the men and women of the IAFF everywhere. Thank you. Thank you. Time. Thank you, guys. Really, thank you so much.